Even though you can't pick the family you're born into, some of these families need to be avoided. As one of the 5 families that dominate organized crime in the New York region, the Bonanno crime family has a history longer than my arm, so let's try and keep it concise. This family was seen as the most brutal of the 5 families during the 20th century, so don't go making all buddy-buddy. Their origins can be traced back to the town of Castellammare del Golfo, located in the province of Trapani, Sicily. Their boss, by the way, was Giuseppe Pepe Bonanno, and his older brother and advisor, Stefano. I hope I didn't butcher my Italian. The clan's strongest ally was the leader of the Magaddino clan, Stefano Magaddino, the brother of Joseph's maternal grandmother. During the 1900s, the 2 clans feuded with Felice Buccellato, the boss of the Buccellato clan. So in 1902, Stefano arrived in New York and became a powerful member of the Castellammare clan. After the deaths of Stefano and Giuseppe, their younger brother Salvatore took revenge by killing members of the Buccellatos. So by 1903, Salvatore married Catherine Bonventre, and on January 18th of 1905, she gave birth to Joseph. 3 years later, Salvatore moved his family to New York City and began establishing dominance and control in the Castellammare community of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So while operating in Brooklyn, the Castellammare leaders were able to secure the criminal organization's future. As of 2017, the family had 110 established members and over 500 associates. They were responsible for numerous planned killings and accidental deaths over the years, to the point where I spent like a half an hour today trying to count them all. I kept getting lost in my count. There was too many. Genghis Khan rose from obscurity in a small corner of the Mongolian steppe to form the largest land empire in history. For the Mongols, the family was the central pillar of society. Genghis' sons and then grandsons extended the empire to reach from the western shores of the Black Sea to the Pacific. So these Mongols, often outnumbered, conquered through their mastery of tactics and psychological warfare. So if a city or an entire people surrendered, they would treat them well. They'd allow them to enjoy the fruits of a secure world. If they resisted, well, you and your city are gonna feel the full fury of the enraged invaders. Despite all the violence that took place as the Mongols extended their rule, once they were in power, the lands were safe, they were well controlled. In many cases, this represented a distinct improvement from previous conditions. Subjects had considerable personal liberty, such as the freedom to follow their own religion, but at what cost? Because this comes with a price. Some experts calculate that 11% of the world's population died because of the Mongol expansion. That's a lot of people. The Ptolemies of ancient Egypt ruled between 305 to 30 BC and are responsible for such a long list of mysterious deaths that they had to be listed today. So they viewed family members as a fight to the death, where you constantly try to eliminate your closest relatives before they did it to you. So let's say P IV killed his mother, who had previously killed her husband because he was having an affair with her mother. So then he married his sister Arsinoe III, who was immediately killed after her husband/brother's death. Her son, P V, had his mother's killers ripped to pieces by an angry group of people. P VII was either killed by his uncle or his father, we're not super sure on that one. P VIII married Cleopatra II, but began an affair with her daughter, Cleopatra III. He had his son cut into pieces and then sent them to his mother. Ugh. So P IX tried to kill his mother, Cleopatra III, then married the first one, and then another sister, both called Cleopatra. P X married the daughter of P IX, Berenice III, and P XI also married Berenice III, who was either his sister or his mother or both. And after 19 days of marriage, he had her killed, and he was promptly torn to pieces by an enraged Greek mob. And that's just the highlights, folks.
Number 10. Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory, commonly referred to as the Blood Countess, occupies a pretty creepy place in history as a Hungarian noblewoman with a notorious reputation. She is believed to be one of the most prolific female serial killers in history, earning her eerie nickname from the gruesome practice of bathing in the red of her victims. This ritual was apparently rooted in her belief that it could preserve her youthfulness, and it sounds like some pretty extreme anti-aging to me. Operating during the late 16th and early 17th centuries within the walls of her castle, now located in modern-day Slovakia, Bathory subjected an estimated 650 girls to unimaginable horrors. Her reign of terror reached its thankful end on December 30th, 1610, when Elizabeth, along with 4 accomplices, faced arrest following an investigation into the disturbing rumors surrounding her actions. Despite the severity of the accusations though, a lack of concrete evidence prevented the claims from being substantiated. However, the absence of solid proof did not grant her leniency, and she was confined to her castle until her eventual passing. Her evil deeds and the whole blood-soaked castle deal make her a heavyweight in the true crime scene. It's a legitimate horror story with more questions than answers. Would probably make a great horror film though. And in at number 9 today is Ma Barker. Ma Barker, a notorious figure in US criminal history, served as the leader of the feared Barker gang, which her sons were also a part of. Gaining the title of the FBI's public enemy #1, Barker orchestrated a series of robberies, murders, and kidnappings across the American Midwest in the early 1930s. Her life came to a pretty explosive end in 1935 during a prolonged standoff in her Florida hideout, setting a record as the longest standoff in FBI history. J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI's first director, once described her as the most vicious, dangerous, and resourceful criminal brain of the last decade. Hoover's description added to Ma Barker's mysterious reputation, solidifying her reputation as one of the most evil women of all time. Number 8, Belle Gunness. Belle Gunness holds the disturbing title of one of America's worst female serial killers. Even before considering her terrifying actions, she was already an imposing and physically intimidating woman, standing 6 feet tall and weighing over 200 pounds. It was alleged that she was responsible for the passing of her husbands, younglings, numerous suitors, boyfriends, and even her own daughters, Myrtle and Lucy. Belle's motive was pretty simple: greed. She gained income by stealing life insurance and assets from her victims. Reports suggest her victim count exceeds 20, with some claiming it could be over 100. Inconsistencies in her post-mortem examination, such as the reported height being 2 inches shorter than Belle's 6 feet, contributed to her becoming a figure in American criminal folklore, often compared to a female Bluebeard, because people will make things up and just run with it sometimes. Number 7, Griselda Blanco. Born in 1943, Griselda Blanco, known by her aliases of La Madrina or the Black Widow, emerged as a frightening figure in the criminal underworld. Hailing from Colombia, she etched her name in history as one of the most ruthless and feared queenpins ever known. Blanco's notoriety reached its peak as a key player in the notorious Medellin cartel, a criminal empire synonymous with violence and illicit trade. What sets Blanco apart is her unexpected role as a mentor to none other than Pablo Escobar. However, as fate would have it, their relationship eventually soured, paving the way for a rivalry that would echo through criminal history. Blanco's criminal empire revolved around the transportation of a certain illegal powdery substance from the fields of Colombia to the streets of the United States. This calculated operation, coupled with her alleged involvement in up to 200 people being ushered to the pearly gates, showcased Blanco's audacity and cunning in a male-dominated realm. Her ability to not only navigate but dominate such a perilous environment proved her prowess as a criminal mastermind. Following a stint behind bars, Blanco's life met a chilling end on September 3rd, 2012, when she was wiped out in a hail of lead, leaving a void in the criminal landscape she once ruled. I'm all for girl power, but let's just put that energy somewhere else, shall we? Cool. Number 6, Christiana Edmonds. Christiana Edmonds, also known as the Chocolate Cream Killer, was an English woman with a really disturbing hobby. She would purchase chocolates, lace them with strychnine, a powerful and toxic chemical, and then return them to the shop. Unexpecting customers who bought those chocolates would naturally fall ill. In 1871, a tragic incident occurred when a young person passed away after consuming one of the poisoned chocolates. Now, following this, Edmonds escalated her campaign by sending parcels of her dangerous chocolates to notable individuals. As the police began linking the fatal and damaging outcomes to the chocolates, Edmonds attempted to deflect suspicion by sending parcels to herself in order to mislead the police. How intelligent. Once she was caught, Edmonds was initially sentenced to death, but her punishment was later changed to life imprisonment due to her mental illness.
Time for another one of the New York 5 families, the Genovese crime family. Also referred to as the West Side, they were founded by Charles Lucky Luciano in 1931 until being renamed after boss Vito Genovese in 1957. Originally in control of the waterfront on the west side of Manhattan, as well as the docks and the Fulton Fish Market on the East River waterfront, this family was run for many years by Vincent the Chin Gigante, who feigned insanity by shuffling unshaven through New York's Greenwich Village by wearing a tattered bathrobe and muttering to himself incoherently to avoid persecution. If it works. It works. So this family is the oldest and the largest of the 5 families. Finding new ways to make money in the 21st century, they took advantage of lax due diligence by banks during the housing bubble with a wave of mortgage frauds. They appear to be the most organized and powerful family in the US, with sources believing that Liborio Barney Bolomo is the current boss. Maybe. Unique in today's mafia climate, the family has benefited greatly from members following Omerta, which is a code of conduct emphasizing secrecy and non-cooperation with law enforcement and the justice system. So while many mobsters from across the country have testified against their crime families since like the 1980s, this family has only had 11 members and associates turn in history, which is not a lot. Hey. They're known for crimes of, oh boy, let's see, racketeering, killing, labor union infiltration, extortion, illegal gambling, substances, loan sharking, bookmaking, truck hijacking, fraud. I could keep going, but we only have so much time. The Scottish Bean Clan. It might sound like a kind of yummy dish, but this isn't for recipes. We're not cooking here. They were a 45-member clan in Scotland in the 16th century that killed and feasted on over 1,000 people during, just 25 years. According to legend, Bean and his clan members were eventually caught by a search party sent by King James VI and lost their lives for their heinous crimes. Alexander Bean was born in East Lothian during the 16th century, where he eventually met a vicious woman named Black Agnes Douglas, who shared his inclinations, and she was accused of being a witch. So after some robbing and the consumption of just one of their victims, the couple ended up at a coastal cave in Benay Head between Girvan and Ballantrae. I tried. The cave was about 200 yards deep and the entrance was blocked by water during high tide. So this was a great hiding spot for 25 years. They produced 6 daughters, 8 sons, 14 granddaughters, and 18 grandsons. And yeah, the grandchildren were the products of keeping it in the family, if you get what I mean. So this clan thrived by laying very careful ambushes at night to rob and end individuals or small groups, bringing the bodies back to their cave where then, well, dinner time! They pickled the leftovers in barrels and discarded what they didn't need. Sometimes that would wash up on nearby beaches. This strategy was used to help conceal their crimes and lead villagers to believe that it was animals that were attacking these travelers. Look, the body parts and disappearances did not go completely unnoticed by the locals, but the clan stayed in their cave by day, took their victims at night. So they weren't exactly out and about. They were eventually captured alive, and they met their end without trial, because folks were like, yeah, that's subhuman, you don't need a trial, your life is over. Sonny and his fellow men had their fun parts cut off and thrown into the fire. They lost their hands and feet, and then game over. Now the women, tied to stakes, burned alive. Makes sense for the time period. And finally for today, the Bender family. We can't talk about their very fun nickname, but you know what I'm talking about. So this was a family of mass killers. They lived and operated in Labette County in Kansas, US, back in 1871 to 1872. So we've got John, his wife Elvira, their son John Jr., and daughter Kate. And we don't know how many people specifically they killed, but if we're estimating, at least a dozen travelers. What do you mean by travelers? Well, they would visit the family's bed and breakfast, and then they'd be hypnotized to stay for dinner, given a seat of honor at the table, which was positioned over a trapdoor into the cellar. So they'd be distracted, and then somebody bops you in the head, you fall through the trapdoor, game over.
Number 5. Mary I of England. Born on February 18, 1516, Mary I held the throne as Queen of England and Ireland from July 1553 until her passing. As the only surviving child of the marriage between Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, Mary I's reign is notable for her brutal persecution of Protestants, earning her infamous moniker Bloody Mary. Her attempt to forcefully return England to Catholicism resulted in the forced passing of numerous prominent Protestants, contributing to a climate of fear and leading around 800 Protestants to flee the country, unable to return until her passing. During her reign, Bloody Mary implemented the heresy laws, which resulted in the burning of over 300 Protestants accused of heresy. Despite the widespread violence, Mary I was never prosecuted for her actions. However, after her passing on November 17, 1558, the winds of change swept through England, ushering away from her staunch Catholic policies. The efforts to re-establish Catholicism were ultimately reversed, marking a turning point in the religious landscape of England. Mary I's reign, entwined with religious strife and political turmoil, remains a complex chapter in history where power, ideology, and the consequences of persecution shape the course of a nation. Number 4. Wu Zetian. Between 665 and 690, Wu Zetian controlled China as empress through her husband, and later as empress dowager through her sons. However, in 690, she achieved a historic milestone by becoming Empress, marking her as China's first and only official recognized female ruler. Wu Zetian maintained her authoritarian position from 690 until her passing in 705. Now, despite the significant achievements in expanding China's territory and establishing it as a powerful empire, her reign was unfortunately also marked by violence and bloodshed. Wu Zetian's rise to power was marked by a series of manipulative and ruthless tactics. She orchestrated the downfall of her political rivals, resorting to schemes such as false accusations, purges, anything to eliminate potential threats. While her success in building a powerful empire is acknowledged, she has faced enduring criticism for the ruthless tactics employed to do so. Number 3. Mary Ann Cotton. Mary Ann Cotton, who lived in the 1800s, left behind a criminal tale that's not all neatly documented. Back then, record keeping wasn't the greatest, so we're left with a bit of a puzzle when it comes to the exact details of her evil actions. But it's estimated that Cotton might have offed around 21 people. 3 of them were unlucky husbands, and a whopping 11 were her very own family. She had this not-so-friendly habit of using arsenic to bring their lives to an end, and then cashing in on their life insurance policies. The party came to a screeching halt, however, when she attempted this method on her stepson, Charles Edward Cotton, leading to her capture and the grand finale, a date with the executioner. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They gave her a short rope instead of the customary long one. This meant that instead of physics causing her neck to snap, she instead suffered a long, slow, agonizing suffocation. Number 2. Mary Pearcey. Mary Pearcey, born in 1866, lived in Kentish Town, North London, with her lover, Charles Creighton. Feeling unsatisfied with life, at the age of 24, Mary sought more, leading her to become romantically involved with a man named Frank Hogg. However, it seems that Frank was also already spoken for, being already married to his pregnant wife, Phoebe. The dark events unfolded on October 24th, 1890, when a policeman discovered the almost severed body of a woman in Crossfield Road, Hampstead, along with a blood-stained pram. Mary's association with the crime drew attention when she displayed hysterical behavior at the mortuary while viewing the body of the deceased woman, later identified as Phoebe Hanelo, Frank Hogg's wife. The next day, the lifeless body of Hogg's daughter was found near Finchley Road, a mile away. This time, the cause was suffocation. As the police became more and more aware of the affair between Frank and Mary, they searched Mary's house and found broken furniture and bloodstains. Mary, seemingly unfazed, played the piano and sang loudly during the search. The police ended up uncovering an axe, 2 knives, bloodstained clothing, and love letters between the illicit couple. Mary's attempts to explain the stains as a result of taking out mice was met with understandable skepticism. The police gathered evidence from neighbors who had witnessed Mary wheeling a pram away from the house on the evening of October 24th and heard screams from her residence. The disturbing truth emerged during the trial at the Old Bailey in December 1890. Mary's defense claimed insanity, but it proved unsuccessful, resulting in her sentencing to be sent to hell. On December 23rd, 1890, at Newgate Prison, Mary Pearcey faced execution by hanging, orchestrated by James Barry, just over a decade after her father, Thomas Wheeler, met a similar fate for a similar crime. I guess it kind of runs in the family. Number 1. Delphine LaLaurie. Delphine LaLaurie was a prominent New Orleans socialite who lived during the early 19th century. She's infamously remembered for her role in one of the city's most gruesome and horrifying scandals. Born Mary Delphine McCarty in 1787, LaLaurie married 3 times and became a central figure in New Orleans high society. However, her reputation took a pretty dark turn when her mistreatment of people that she kept forcibly endured came to light. Reports of extreme cruelty and sadistic practices circulated, revealing the disturbing treatment of servants within the LaLaurie mansion. In 1834, a fire at the mansion exposed a hidden chamber where individuals were discovered in appalling conditions, subjected to unimaginable horrors. The shocking revelations sparked public outrage, and Delphine LaLaurie fled the city, leaving behind a legacy of cruelty that continues to haunt the historical narrative of New Orleans.